Hey, what's going on there, Mission students? If I haven't met you, my name is Josh. I'm our student pastor here at Mission, and I just got to start by saying I'm just so deeply, I'm deeply grieved at everything that's taken place the last 10 days. Um, yeah, the image and video of seeing George Floyd um, just dying on video and just yeah, it's overwhelmed me with emotion and with sadness, and it just feels like we in the world right now we are talking about an issue that for too long we've been silent about, myself included in this. And so the question that I've been asking is, what does it look like for us, specifically for us with with mission students? How do we lead forward in this, and what are the things that we can do? And I've just spent a lot of time listening, asking questions, seeking out the people who I know who are the wisest around this topic, or people I know who've had different experiences than me, and just sitting with them. And that's what the last probably 7 days has looked like for me, is just a lot of asking questions that I do not know the answers to, and just sitting and listening and asking more questions and more questions and more questions. And I think that's what we need to be leading with right now, is we need to be listening and we need to be learning. And I know school is out and you're on summer break, but what if this became our greatest season of learning around one of the greatest issues of injustice in our country right now? And so one of my good friends, he's a former student, a part of Mission Church. Anyways, I sat down with him earlier this week, and we spent a long time having some conversation. And I just thought, as he shared his perspective, just because it was so eye-opening to me, it'd be really helpful for you to hear from him as well. And so his name's Jaden. Some of you, if you were in middle school, you might recognize him because he's been a volunteer in middle school previously before he went away to college. He was a high school student, a part of Mission Students. And anyway, so I would love to share with you a conversation that he and I have had. We're going to split this into two parts, so look for this, part one today, part two tomorrow, just to hear his experience. And I want to encourage you to do the same thing, to be someone who listens. Seek out people who look different than you, especially if you are white skinned like me. Go and find people who look different than you and ask them questions about their experience. And don't be defensive or feel like that you have to have solutions. Just ask and then listen. And so check out this conversation between he and I. And this is part one. Join us tomorrow for part two. Awesome. Hey, thanks for jumping on here, man. Appreciate you creating a little bit of space. I know you and I have known each other now for probably 4 years, and you're somebody who I personally have spent a lot of time having conversations about, and I always enjoy hearing your perspective. And I think that one of the really helpful things just we can be doing in this season is stopping and pausing and listening to other people. And so I just wanted to take a couple minutes and just kind of hear a little bit from you. So if you want, I know not everyone who's probably watching this video knows you, so maybe you could just introduce yourself a little bit and tell us about who you are.
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Jaden Duenas. I've grown up in Bloomingdale my entire life. Literally, um, I went to Marquardt Middle School and then Glenbard North High School when I moved, and now I go to Boston University. Um, and like these issues that we're going to be discussing today are very important to me. Like for the long run, I've been trying to be vocal about this and trying to bring this community to be aware about this stuff. So this is great that we're finally getting around to this.
Well, yeah, I know that one of the questions that I have found really revealing, just because everyone has a story around this, is the question: when did you kind of become aware of your skin color, and what was that like, and how did that interact with how you viewed the world, viewed yourself, viewed others? Just kind of love to hear a little bit about your awareness around that.
Yeah, I think that's really important too. And I don't remember who it is exactly, but there's some historical Black activist who talks about like the constant like being conscious of your skin color, and like how as a person of color you're constantly reminded. So there definitely were like initiating points that made me aware of that. However, it is like a constant reminder for a lot of people. It's like constantly things that are happening. I say the first time I was about 10 years old, I think. And I was going to this school, and I won't name the name of the school because I don't want to cause, I don't know, people probably went there as well. Um, but at that school, it was a very small private school. And I remember, I think I was in fourth grade or fifth grade, and I was just trying to be different and unique, just being a little kid. And I would wear different colored shoelaces sometimes. My favorite colors were orange and purple. And I'd wear them on my Converse just with shorts. And I know I looked really goofy, but it was fun. And I got my friends to join me and stuff. And I remember at one point, the principal, I don't remember if it was the principal or the teacher, but some level of administration stopped me and had to talk to like my parents and other parents about what those colors represented and what those that meant for a kid, and saying that that could have had something to do with gang affiliation.
Wow.
I was 10, you know, like,
Wow.
I'm 10 years old. So needless to say, I was not affiliated with the gang. I was wearing Converse and just being myself. Um, I think it was in moments like that that first made me aware of like I'm just having fun, and there are people who see me like as a threat,
Wow.
and and that's not right, you know. I say years after that, I was in sixth grade, and I got my ears pierced the summer before sixth grade because I thought I was real cool, and I was. Um,
You still are. You still are.
yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. But I remember I went to like the back to school night right before that year started, and the principal saw that I had my ears pierced, and that was not something that any other guy in the entire school had done at all, and that was a K through 8 school at that point. And I remember that they talked to my parents about that's not what this school represents. And it was the same conversation about like gang stuff. And at that point, I was 12. You know, it's like
Yeah.
I'm 12. It's 2 year difference, but needless to say, I still wasn't in a gang, and I'm still not at 19. You know,
Yeah.
um, but it's the same exact conversation. Realizing that to some people, like your presence and you wanting to be different or just be innovative or none of the above, just being yourself is like a threat to some people.
Wow.
And it's like a really like disheartening, and like it makes you kind of almost angry. Like you want to keep doing things like that then.
Yeah.
To some extent, you want to keep being different and keep saying like, if I'm a threat for this, like just wait till the next thing and I'm gonna just do something even more goofy, but of course peaceful always. But you know, I think that's when I was first made aware of, I guess, like the melanin in my skin.
Wow.
On the other hand, I was also made aware of like the privilege that I have of not being like super melanated in my skin, you know, because I'm a very light skinned person, and I'm not 100% black. Um, and I remember I was a freshman, and there was this conflict with this one kid who was like I don't even know what to call him, but he was definitely like a white supremacist kind of
Wow.
guy. He was 14, just like I was back then. And I remember he started posting on Facebook like Nazi and KKK propaganda. He posted pictures of like lynchings and like all kinds of like language about like kill these animals and dogs and stuff. Um, no, mongrel was the word he used, actually, mongrel. And and it was actually a kid who I had seen kind of like struggling at various points, just like making friends and stuff. So it was kind of weird because a year before in eighth grade, that was a kid that me and my friends were trying to reach out to and trying to like be friendly with and try to bring into our circle to an extent. And not even a year later, he was saying that those same Facebook posts, he actually said he wanted to come in with like a weapon and kill people for being black. I was aware of my privilege after that because I contacted him directly, and I said like, I was being pretty bold, I guess, back then. I said, if you got a problem with me, we're gonna handle it. Like, I'm not gonna back down. You can talk about like guns, you can talk about whatever you want. If you got an issue with me because of the color of my skin, we're gonna handle it. And he said, "Oh, I wouldn't do anything to you. I don't see you like that." And
Wow.
I was like, I was taken. It surprised me because I saw myself like that. You know,
Mm,
I've always seen myself as a person of color, but when he said that, I realized in that moment, like he sees these other people who are darker than me as much different than I am, as more of a threat than I would be. And
wow.
so that really it surprised me, but it woke me up to the realization that I don't have the same experience as other people just because I'm like not white, you know. And
Yeah.
that's an issue of colorism, you know. It's just there's a spectrum of color, and everyone
Mhm.
on that spectrum is a beautiful creation of God. But there are a lot of people who see that spectrum, and the darker you are, the more of a threat you are. So I think those three experiences have really been like the wake up calls for me.
Wow. Was there was there ever a time where you had conversations with your parents around that, or they ever brought any conversations to you like, hey, um, be aware people might treat you differently, talk to you differently, or don't behave these kinds of way because it might lend you to getting a further spotlight shined on you, or any conversations like that that you can remember?
Yeah, no, I think it's a very common conversation that parents with young children of color have, and it's a necessary conversation. I can't remember the exact time that I had it or what we talked about beyond like how to behave in front of police, how like people might view me. Um, I think that that conversation now though seems kind of I don't know, maybe murky is the right word. It's like how useful is that conversation about like complying with the police and complying with people if people like George Floyd who are complying, and people like the countless other people who have died, like still end up dead. And so it's a scary reality, but I've definitely had those conversations.
Wow.
And even in my own experience, I remember I was I was a sophomore in high school, um, my like one and only run-in with the police. I've never even been pulled over for like a traffic stop. My one encounter with the police I've ever had because I've avoided them at every other point.
Yeah.
Um, I was at the Glendale Heights Fest and I was being very animated with my talking and having fun with my friends. And I came like a little too close to this younger kid who was standing next to me as I was like being animated with my hands. And the police thought that I was trying to hit this kid, apparently. Um, wasn't really even looking at the kid or the police, but I just went like this near a kid, and the cop stopped me, yelled, "Hey, what are you doing?" Had his hand on his holster, and
Wow.
this, if I'm in that point, I couldn't even have tried to comply further. You know, it was a split second of me talking. I didn't even realize what it might have looked like.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, definitely had those conversations.
Yeah, that's the thing that's been such a learning and so revealing to me is the realization that like those things that you just described have never intersected with my own personal life.
Mm.
Like I never had a moment where my parents had to talk to me to say, um, hey, be aware of these types of things, or if you get pulled over by the police, you can operate in this way. And kind of embarrassing. Like when I was in high school, I got pulled over a number of different times, and it was all for like stupid speeding stuff. Going like 40 and a 30 and just like dumb, like nothing that was like really bad. But there was never a point when I saw those flashing lights, that I thought, oh man, like I'm in danger. Like I thought I was in danger with my parents. I was like, oh man, I'm gonna get a ticket and my parents are gonna be so upset. But that was like the stuff that was running through my mind was like, oh, I hope I don't get a ticket because I don't want to have to talk to my parents and ask to borrow like $100 to pay this. But there was never any fear. And I was just talking to one of my friends even the other day that even now, on any occasion that that we have uh police officers at mission on like a Sunday morning, like I look at them and I'm like, oh man, safety, right? Like in my mind, because I've just had a different experience growing up that's been completely different. And I've never, um, yeah, I just have never had those types of experience, but I keep slowing down and keep asking questions and realizing how what was common for me as a white person in this country was very different than a lot of my friends of color, and their shared experience is very different than mine.
Yeah.